Welcome back. This is a morning show here on Signature TV. Charles here. It's 10 after 9 a.m. on this very beautiful day, the 14th day in the month of May 2025. So today we'll be talking about the Nigeria First policy. It's a policy that is all about Nigeria first. I mean, it's reminiscent of what the United States of America under the current president is doing, is saying America First policy. It's just going to be about America First in everything that they do. That it hasn't really gone down well with a lot of persons across the world. Is, of course, dovetailed into a lot of tariffs. But for Nigeria, the president recently molded that idea of basically doing everything across Nigeria. If we cannot use what we produce, then we shouldn't import. But even if we're going to import, it must be at the last resort. But how important is this policy, and how would it in any way develop our fragile economy? We have with us all the way from Birmingham, Ken Agala is a public analyst. Good to have you. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Okay. Apparently you're actually in United States. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Ken, I mean, we are a country that is so much engrossed in foreign product. Do you think that this would work?
Well, it will work if we have the right kind of leadership. That is because everything about what you're doing is all about leadership and how they drive the policy. It has to start from the top. If the government is sincere about what they are doing, then there are several steps that they need to take. The president needs to walk the talk. It's not just about announcing the Nigeria First policy. There has to be a lot of things to do. Of course, definitely Nigeria doesn't produce almost nothing, and so it will be a bit difficult. There are several things that we need to source from overseas. But if the presidency decides to drive the policy and start from himself, the policy has to start from us, from Aso Rock. There are several things that he has to do. There are several low-hanging fruits that they have to do. I mean, so it's not about just announcing Nigeria First policy and um, asking others to do as you say and not as you talk. It's important. It's easier for people to do as you do.
That last part of your thoughts is asking people to do as you say, not as you do. Many persons have said that if you look at the amount of persons in government, they are just less than 1%, that maybe they can be excused from maybe going on with this so-called Nigeria First policy, that all Nigerians should be involved in this Nigerian First policy. Do you share in those sentiments?
No, I do not, because this 1% also controls about 75% of the entire budget. These are the people that make use of the recurrent expenditure in the budget, which is about 2/3 of the budget. And this is where leadership flows. This is where policy drives from. These are the people that should start the driving the policy. Yeah, you cannot ask the people to drive it because they are, maybe because they do not partake in using the most of the budget. Because if you check, like you said, you rightly said, the people in government are not up to like maybe like 3% or 4% of Nigeria. But these are the people that the recurrent expenditure in the budget services. And these are the people who also somehow to control the other part of the capex, the capital expenditure in the budget. They are the people that also controls it. So there's no way you're going to ignorate them from the whole Nigeria First policy. They are the ones that should start driving the policy by not just by their statements, by their actions, and by the kind of things that they utilize. You cannot tell me that a country that do not have primary health care for women, infant mortality is still high in the country, And we are talking about building conference centers for 36 billion naira, while our women still die in childbearing. Do you know what that means? So it has to start from the top. It's not just telling the people, giving them policies and asking them to run on those policies.
So you're advocating that everyone gets involved. I mean, if we are actually going to implement this particular policy, everyone should be involved, including. In fact, you are saying that you should start from them. Let them show cause. I mean, they shouldn't be going out to buy a Toyota and when we have a Nord, for instance, or even an Innocent, for instance, in Nigeria. So
Exactly.
you would wonder, why anybody would think in that direction. But then, the policy in itself, do you think it is well couched? Do you think that Nigerians will buy into it? I mean, we've seen the president travel out of the country when we have a clinic in the presidential villa that is being catered to with taxpayers' money. He barely uses it. I mean, I've also seen if they want to go for checkups, they don't use any Nigerian hospitals. They fly out. When they want to buy a vehicle, they tend to be more prone to buying foreign vehicles because it's a thing. So it casts a lot of doubts to the policy in itself. No matter how good intention it is, it might not necessarily work because of this penchant for this foreign goods and foreign products. Do you think it's a problem?
Yes, it is. The presidency, like I said before, um, has to lead and implement this. Yeah. As of right now, Nigerians can take anything. So far, so good. I mean, Nigerians have been the people who have been able to resist the most horrific policies. These were people who you woke up in one morning and you increase the price of petrol to over 1,000%, and they survived it. So it means that they are ready to make all manner of sacrifice for the country to to grow. I mean, if like before this government came into play a few just a few years ago, there was this ban on 41 items by the CBN, including a lot of foodstuffs and all that, and they weren't coming in. Yeah, I mean, it merely shot the price up. I mean, but this government opened it up, and those items, are now, coming in. If you want to drive this policy, of course, there is pressure on the Nigerian forex, and that's why we see dollar at about 1,600. So, what if you want to drive a policy where you depend less on using foreign exchange? So, this policy is really, really part of it. So, it is the right policy. But like I keep saying, the major thing is implementation. It has to start from the top. Besides that, most of the companies that are doing major contracts like construction in Nigeria, most of them, the major ones, are not even Nigerian companies, and these are jobs that could be done by Nigeria. This is mainly road construction, house building. But when you give it to foreign companies, you realize that you are promoting capital flight, because these companies have to move their money out in forex to their home country, which puts pressure on your FX. So it has to be total. There are companies in Nigeria that could do most of those jobs. It is just road construction. It's not a big deal, you know. So there are several ways the government should to take the first step, like you mentioned about vehicles. Why would you want to tell Nigerians to buy Nigeria first, and you're driving a Cadillac made in America, and you're buying your House of Rep members cars made from Japan? How do you want to do that? So the thing is that Nigerians can't even afford foreign made goods at the moment. So already the Nigerians have complied with the policy. It is like you said, the 1% of the people that should now take the bull by the horn starve themselves of some of those their 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 appetites that they have. The Nigerians are already have already succumbed to whatever can be given to them.
In what ways do you think that this first policy help with local production and manufacturing?
Yeah, in terms of dependence on foreign goods, and it will affect definitely. It's about our effects and our demand for foreign exchange. And it is also meant to boost production and probably exports. But you see, there are so many other obstacles to that aspect. I often ask people in Nigeria, why is it that it is difficult? It is easy for somebody in Nigeria to sit down in his house and use his phones to probably buy a vehicle in the US and put it in a ship and bring it to Nigeria without even knowing anybody in the US. You can do all that from your phone and it will just come to Nigeria. Try exporting anything from Nigeria, you will get burnt. So there are several other factors to put. It's not just enough to say Nigeria policy. What is your have you removed those restrictions that has stopped made people always almost impossible for them to export, to move goods out of the country to earn the foreign exchange you're looking for? There are several factors that have to come into play. It is not just by mentioning a policy, then you just go ahead and rest. Policies need to be driven, and they need to be driven by the people who are in the executive.
You know, part of you know, the things that the policy seeks to achieve is at least growing the manufacturing hub in Nigeria and being able to, cater to the population of the demand of what, the ban on imports would be, and then being able to also export. How do you think that we can balance that out if it's, comes into effect? Because if you close down your borders and saying people should not import things, you are also raising the monies, because by and large, you would have a situation where the first few years there will be some sort of glitch. People trying to, adjust to the main things. The realities on ground. There's also the issue of whether we have the materials to even produce things that are quality. We've heard people say things like, the product, for instance, fake stuff, trying to imitate what, is coming from abroad. So you think whether we have that quality, that standard to be able to manufacture things at this stage? Shouldn't we be dealing with that first before, get it into the Nigeria First policy?
Well, yeah, it's a bit of the two. Government has to also, in its own place, fund the elements that contribute to production. The issues like electricity are still is still a very big problem in the country, and this is so sad. And this is something that have been consumed all over the world for over 200 years, and people are still, and we are still finding it difficult to get it done. And even those that get it right now at the moment, they have to pay through their nose. They have to pay through their nose. Some businesses in Nigeria that used to pay as low as 300, 400,000 in a month, as they now have to cover about 1 point something million just to stay in business. So there are several factors that the government has to also, put in place. The skills are there, the resources are there, the human resources are there. It is just the right policies that could. Nigerians could produce several things. But what are the things that you need to produce? What are your policy on access to finance? What are your policy on access to land? What are your policy on access to land title? These are some bottlenecks that has to be dealt with. I've been in Rwanda some years back, and you can sit down in your house on your phone and get the title document for your land and do several other things. But in Nigeria, go try looking for a CFO. You must have to know the governor or the governor's brother or the governor's cousin. Or so there are several factors to it. So it's not just to say that Nigerians cannot produce anything. We don't have. It's not about the human resources. It's about still those ingredients, those things that are required in production that I've mentioned here so far: energy, electricity, then security. Insecurity is now a huge problem in the country. Farmers can no longer go to farm. If farmers can no longer go to farm, your production is going to reduce. And even those that even go to farm, they do not have the roads for the farms to bring us this product from the farms. And in the next few days, I mean, I've seen a picture where people who grew tomatoes, we are we are throwing them away because they could not bring it out on time until it gets rotten. So government has to focus more in investments that will create production, that will make the people to start producing. It is not just about mounting these policies. If you mount these policies and you block the border and you do not create the environment for people to produce, you're only going to create chaos in the country.
All right. How do you think that this policy will be able to integrate Nigerians in diaspora like you know, in the scheme of things, in order to help with growth, investments, and development of the country?
Well, yeah, for us in diaspora, you get at the moment, we're not seeing the required the body language of the government is not attractive enough for us to come and invest. I have several friends who have come to invest in Nigeria, and they got burnt in whatever they were doing. They got severely burnt. I've seen a lot of things like that. So I believe that. Hold on, hold on, on the phone. I believe that Nigerians have to be prepared. Those abroad have to be prepared mentally for before they could invest in the country.
Right. Do you think there's a role that Nigerian universities should play in this regard, in terms of research on what to really do in order to not just jump in on it? Because the announcement was just made, and the next thing we heard that the Attorney General has been asked to go on and draw up something, and that the president might most likely go into use. So, do you think that the universities have a role to play in this regard?
Yes, yeah, of course they have roles to play, maybe in terms of educating people and creating the necessary research institute for some of the new the replacement product lines that we need to get into place to come around. But um, how significant is that when the universities were expecting, we're seeing a lot of our schools don't even have enough resources to to engage in research or several other things. So I mean, they have a role to play, but the thing is that what are the 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 their strengths in being able to do some of these things.
There's also a backside to this particular policy, which is smuggling. If we decide to close the borders and focus on manufacturing within the country, do you think it would increase smuggling, for goods that are banned, for instance?
As long as we cannot produce enough of what we consume, no matter how much you close the border, you're only going to increase the prices of the smuggling and never really pass it to the products. The people have to eat. If you cannot close the borders when you can't produce enough for the country's consumption. So if the last time it was done, it only shot the prices of those goods up. You know, if you, people are still going to get those things. But Nigeria has a large land border, and with corrupt officials at the borders, and also the need that has been created and in the country, you're only going to have a skyrocketing of the products in that are being smuggled into the country, because this will still come in because the people need to eat, because we do not produce enough of what we eat. And this is mainly because of one factor, and that is the fact that insecurity is reducing agriculture in the country. People get burnt. People don't go to farms. In some of parts of Nigeria, people have to pay to terrorists and other um, insurgents for them to be able to go to the farm, or else they get killed. So it's a total problem, and this happens all across the country. When you have a country like that where people cannot go to the farm except they pay to non-state actors, then you are running into a food epidemic, and then you say you want to clear the border. How do you do that? How are people going to eat?
So if we're to put it in perspective, for instance, because again, do you think we would have a problem with other countries? Because like it or leave it, there are countries that we do business with. It means our policies of trade with them would have to change dramatically. Do you think that we would have a problem with some of these countries that, use our platforms, import goods, and we export to them? Because again, it will require us to think about how we can manufacture some of these products within the country without importing from them.
It's probably not going to affect them because the need is still here. Well, we're not going to meet that need overnight. It's not like we're going to have enough. We're going to overnight produce enough for the entire country, and then we'll stop, importation. No, there is still it will probably not hurt them so much. Like I said, the only thing is when we if we try to do anything like shut the borders completely, we are only going to create an increase in price, inflation in those things, because those things will still come in. The only thing now is that the amount to get those things in the country, the amount of bribe and all that will now increase, and they will pass it to the consumers in the country. So, I mean, our neighbors and our trade partners have completely nothing to fear about this kind of this about this, because it's not. I think we are going to we're going to reduce our dependence on several foreign goods. So I mean, even countries like in the United States where I live, I mean, they still import a lot of products into the country. So it's not going to affect our trade with any of these countries.
How do you think that our procurement department across all sectors should be reformed to start thinking about, patronizing Nigerian startups and Nigerian companies? Because again, they probably be used to sending this contract across board. I mean, if you look at road construction around the world, around the country, more than 70 to 80% of the roads that are constructed in Nigeria are actually done by foreign companies. Same with even most of these huge hotels and the likes. How do you think we can tweak our reform for procurement in order for our department, especially government department, to prioritize indigenous companies and of course the Nigerian startups?
So our procurement law is also a big problem. And this is because of the method of financing. Our financing method is a system that actually knocks out startups. So the reason why most of these foreign companies are still in charge in the country is because probably they have access to finance and they can wait long. By the time you have a system where startups, are not mobilized for contracts, they are now going to look for funds on their own, which is scarce because the banks are not lending anymore. And even if they lend, you have to bring all sorts of things. Then it's a problem. So the procurement process, yeah, has to, like you said, be reworked in a way that startup companies are giving contracts to, and a financing process has to be in place to guide them throughout the duration of that project. It's not about go and look at some of the failed projects done by NDDC. You will realize that it is mostly as a function of finance, because by the time somebody finishes a phase, let us say somebody goes to the site and does earthworks and does his his stone base and is ready for the next payment, and it takes like a year to come or 2 years to come. By the time the money comes, the earthwork is washed away, and he has to go back again to site to start afresh again. So by the time you know it, that company doesn't last 1 or 2 years, and the company dies. So the aspect that has to be worked in our procurement process is actually the financing, project financing. It has to be done in a way to make sure that the project is still on track.
Great one. I want to say a very big thank you to you, Ken Agala, for your insights on the Nigeria First policy. I will keep building on it because, again, it's not yet in motion. We're still in the works. So in due course, I'm sure that we can call you back again to speak a little more about it. Many thanks for your time. We truly appreciate you.
Thank you.
Signature TV. News in your pocket.